Greetings, Gothamites, to another Crowlection review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the new McFarlane DC Multiverse Red Platinum Batman Begins Scarecrow. Man, talk about a mouthful. Now, is this guy a decent figure, or is it frighteningly forgettable? As a wise man once said,
Well, we'll find out.
Now, he was announced recently as a part of a wave with two other Batman Begins figures, the regular suit Batman and the Demon Batman from Crane's Hallucination. And I was a bit nervous when these guys were announced because two of them, Scarecrow here and Demon Batman, just so happen to be the two that I want most, are essentially chase figures. Scarecrow here is a Platinum Edition, or as I guess you can see, a red Platinum Edition, which I don't know if that's new in general or just new to me, but I don't remember there being different colors of Platinum. And then Demon Batman is a gold label, which is generally a little easier to find than the Platinum, but still sort of a specialty figure. And on top of that, Demon Batman is a Target exclusive, which, while I do have a fair amount of Targets around me, always makes for a bit of a headache. Regardless, these special edition figures are generally pretty tricky to find here in my neck of the woods, which is the NYC area. We have a lot of collectors here, and our distribution is already pretty spotty. Sometimes I have luck if I get to a store right when they put a case out, but it's rarely a character that I really want. Such is not the case here, obviously. I wanted these guys bad, so when I found out that they were both behind that premium figure format, I was more than a bit nervous. I still have not seen these guys here in New York, but my boo actually grabbed these for me on a recent trip to Arizona, so shout out to my boo. If you guys can find yourself someone who supports your nerdy interests, I would definitely recommend it. One thing I don't know if I would recommend, however, is whatever McFarlane is doing with these variants, releasing in-demand characters or variants behind these sort of premium paywalls in a way. What are we even up to now? There's Gold Label, Platinum Red, apparently, Collector's Edition, there's Digital Edition, Page Punchers, McFarlane Toy Store exclusives, etc. Call Todd what you want. You definitely cannot call the man lazy. Part of me can see why he would do all these variants from a business standpoint, but he reuses just enough parts as is that I can't imagine it's really costing him too much. I don't know. What do you guys think about all these new variants and exclusive? Tell me down below. But to get right into it with my main man Scarecrow and the help of my handy-dandy scythe pointer, my spointer, if you will. Now, the Batman Begins Scarecrow holds a special place in my heart. This was the Scarecrow that really got me into Scarecrow, the one that opened up that Pandora's box. Why? I can't quite say. It's arguably the most boring out of all of Scarecrow's designs. It's really just a guy in a suit, and ultimately, he doesn't even have that much screen time, maybe 10-15 minutes total across 3 movies, but he definitely left an impression. Now, Christopher Nolan obviously took a much more realistic approach to things, as he does, so we were never going to get that full comic costume getup, but I think this is still quite effective. It's simple, but it works. It takes something that, in our world, is almost like a status symbol, the business suit, and then it turns it and twists it on its head, almost making like a mockery of it. The mask is really what does the heavy lifting here and projects all the fears back onto the person, and I do love the look of the mask. It's ragged and frayed and crudely stitched together, not to mention Cillian Murphy sells the heck out of the role. You can really buy him as that slimy, arrogant, creepy doctor, and even when he's behind this mask, his eyes do so much talking. There's really just something about him, which I guess is probably why they kept asking him back. Now, this is not the first Scarecrow figure from Begins that we've gotten. McFarlane actually released the finale version with the straitjacket, back in that Nolan Build-A-Figure wave. Now, companies, when making the Nolan Scarecrow, always seem to go for the straitjacket look. Despite having maybe 30 seconds of screen time, it's the one that they go with. Even the basic figure that Mattel gave us way back in 2005 did that straitjacket look. And I get it. I do. The guy in a business suit is not the most interesting or threatening look for kids to want to play with. But then you get the older nerds like myself who want that more screen accurate, more commonly seen look. And don't get me wrong, I like this straitjacket look. It does sort of allude to the more Scarecrow-esque nature of the costume. The jacket can almost be seen as like a raggedy robe, if you will. It definitely works. Now, to compare the two, there is a fair amount of reuse between the figures. The legs are exactly the same. You have the suit pant, which ends in almost a bell-bottom fashion. I'm not the biggest fan of this. I don't think it's that way in the movie, and it certainly hasn't been on any figures before. I can kind of see it working for the straitjacket version since, he's just broken out of prison, he's disheveled, he's riding a frickin' horse, so it's probably flared out down there, but it doesn't really work so well for the suited version. In general, I think this new version is just a little too bulky. This is a Scarecrow that's been hitting the gym, or maybe like a post-Thanksgiving Scarecrow who ate a bit too much. Cillian Murphy is a rather slim gentleman, so this is kind of more of his stunt double. I don't know. And the jacket is really where it's most noticeable for me. It's a little round, which when you squeeze it, you really see there's a lot of give, a lot of open space. So they could have, pulled it in a bit. If you pinch it towards the back like this, you can really kind of see that it helps make him look a little more slim, a little more natural. And I don't know how well it comes across on camera, but the suit piece is actually different between the figures as well. I don't know if you can see it, but this is where the button is on this old one, and it's down here on the new one. There's a lot more extra fabric underneath the button here. This is probably, I can't imagine, a full jacket on this one, so they probably just sculpted a little piece here. It's also a different texture on this guy. This guy's suit jacket matches the texture of the pant leg. I don't exactly know what to call it. It's almost like a waffling texture, whereas this one is smooth up top and a little rough down below, which is what she said. You'll also excuse me for a moment while Scarecrow flashes you. Another thing I don't know if you can see, but the jacket on this one is noticeably thicker. Take a look like right here. The thickness of that jacket piece is thicker than this one here, which is definitely, I'm sure, adding to the bulk, which is odd because I know that McFarlane has a slimmer suit body. I don't have the figure, but the Court of Owls member uses that body, and the proportions on it are a lot slimmer. I think if McFarlane had tried to repaint that to give us a more screen-accurate look, it would work really well for this guy. The only reason I can think of that maybe they didn't is that the head might have looked a little too big on that body. This one definitely has broader shoulders, but I don't know for sure. If anyone does have that figure and can do a head swap, let me know how it looks. Now, the head sculpt between the two is obviously also the same. The original gave us this maggoty mask from when he sprays Rachel with the fear toxin. Again, not entirely screen accurate as he's actually wearing the suit when that happens. I'm also admittedly not the biggest fan of this effect. I know it's probably very hard to paint such little details, but it does kind of look like he just has a bad case of acne rather than maggots. I might try swapping the heads between the two just to see how it looks. This new version does use that same head sculpt, only it does not paint the maggots. Now, I don't entirely hate it. it comes off as sort of like a frayed effect in person, like the burlap of the mask got all messed up. Excuse me, gentlemen. Um, it certainly doesn't detract from the look of the mask, and I certainly don't hate it. I do appreciate that they gave us this maggoty fear effect. We were never going to get, the bat coming out of the mouth or any flame effects or anything. I do think sometimes, at least as far as this Begins mask goes, a lot of times when I see it in either figure form or in art pieces, the mask is a little too smooth in parts, a little rounded. It can kind of come off as a little potato-esque if the mask is made too round. So I do appreciate that they left it on. I just wonder if it was possible to maybe shave off those little bits or something. I don't know. Apart from that, the straitjacket Scarecrow's mask is painted with a darker wash, which makes sense. The dude just got out of prison. He probably didn't have time to freshen up. Another interesting detail to note, I don't know how well you can see it under these bright lights, but the suited version has a little bit of a wash on the shoulders, which would imply that this is the Dark Knight version. His suit in Begins was a little cleaner. I also believe he wore this darker tie in The Dark Knight. In Begins, he had more of like a sweater vest tie combo. If that's the case, I would have appreciated maybe a little more damage to the mask. He has kind of those burn marks underneath from the taser. It's not the biggest deal, but for hardcore fans like me, we take note of these things. And speaking of things that we take note on, that brings me to my first official segment of Nerdy Nitpicks. Now, a nerdy nitpick is anything that a regular person would never take notice of and definitely would not care about. But, as we've already established, I am not a normal person. And my first nerdy nitpick is the lack of uniformity that merch companies have when handling Scarecrow's mask. Now, this is not a situation like we often see nowadays, where the figure is so different because the design changed from the concept art to the movie. This is something different. And to help me out, I'm going to bring in some friends. First, my Cillian Murphy autograph card. And that's not me trying to show off, at least not too much. And then we have the Mattel Movie Masters Scarecrow figure. And can you believe there was a time when this guy here was like the pinnacle of action figures, at least movie tie-in action figures? Simpler times, my friends. And finally, we have the Funko Pop NFT Scarecrow. Look at that. It's like a dad with his kid. So cute. Now, like I said, one of my favorite aspects of Scarecrow's masks are the little frays here. Let me move it out of the light so you can see. We have these little bits of burlap on the side that almost stick out, very straw-like. I hardly ever see any companies make those little frays. Mattel actually did on their Movie Master figure. You can see on the side here, it's got those little teeny bits. Granted, he doesn't look this way all the time in the movie. Most notably, I think it's just in the scene where he gasses Rachel. But still, it helps add to that, again, frankly, kind of potato-ish silhouette. And keep him from looking too round. It's also on a lot of the promo images for Scarecrow, so it's always been something that's stuck in my mind. Secondly, as you can see with the Mattel Movie Masters, there's no tie on the guy. Scarecrow always wears a tie in Begins, so this must be like casual Friday Scarecrow, where he's, just clocked out of Arkham. He's going to hit up the town, spread some fear, you know how it is. Another detail that I love, and I'll actually bring in yet another friend for this one, and that's the Mafex Batman Begins Scarecrow. As you can see on the back, we have these little belt straps. These little buckles, like the ones that he fastens right before he gasses Falcone. I thought they're really another fun way to break up the flatness of the color of the mask, and really add to the practicality of it. It's how he fastens the mask around his head to stop from breathing in his own gas, which, if only we were all so lucky as to not breathe in our own gas. We have them on the Mafex figure here, but not on the Mattel figure, not on the Funko, and not on McFarlane here. Just a plain mask that goes all the way around his head. The third little detail that I love are the eye holes here. In the movie, he has these little strands of burlap that go across his eyes. In the film, you can probably barely even see them, and they never really bothered to put them on any of the other figures, other than the Funko Pop here. I get that it's a detail that so few people would notice, and probably would be rather difficult to sculpt on something so tiny like this. And of course, why would you want to cover up Cillian Murphy's gorgeous, piercing eyes? But it's still a small detail that I really love and appreciate. Why do I like these details? I don't know. Again, it's one of those little things that people would look at me like I was crazy if I ever complained about. I might literally be the only person that really cares about these little mask details. But hey, that's why I am the Crowlector, and that is why this is a nerdy nitpick. What are some of your nerdy nitpicks? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. I'll probably share a few. Accessory-wise, my boy is a little light. Just like the original version, he comes with 2 extra hands. Actually, he's wearing his extra hands right now. There's a punching one and sort of a graspy one. The ones he comes with in package are 2 little trigger fingers, but he doesn't actually come with anything else to hold. He also comes with the McFarlane staple of a cool art card with a bio on the back. I might have appreciated the bio to be a little more tailored to the Begins one specifically. Here, you can pause it if you want to read it. It's just kind of a nice, basic Scarecrow bio, not really mentioning anything in Begins, although we don't really get to know much about him in Begins. And then the art on the front, I actually really like, and I don't remember if I've seen before. I do remember the head actually is from a shirt that I have, but I don't remember seeing the rest of the body. Scarecrow was never on any of the posters or in any of the promo art, so we didn't get a whole lot of art from him. So it's cool that, at least for me, there's a new piece of Batman Begins art for the first time in, 20 years? God, can you believe it's been 20 years since The Dark Knight? I can't. It makes me feel old. He also comes with the other McFarlane staple of a nice black DC stand. I'm using it on this guy. He doesn't necessarily need it, but my box here is on a little bit of an uneven surface, so it definitely helps. Anyway, that is it for accessories. Just some hands and a card. Now, there are a few things I think he could have come with. Obviously, an unmasked head would have been nice, but I do imagine that likeness rights for Cillian are a bit tricky these days after that Oscar win. But we could have gotten his briefcase that dispenses the toxin, maybe a fear gas effect to go around the arm, maybe one of the stuffed rabbits he uses to smuggle his fear stuff into the city, or even a lighter. The Mafex version from a couple years back came with that lighter, and it's small, but it does add some nice, fun character to the figure. I think McFarlane could have done what they did with the Two-Face figure, where if they sculpted the lighter into the hand, and then it wouldn't topple out, but alas, only some fists. Articulation-wise, you have all the usual suspects. You got a ball-jointed head, although because of the way that the bottom of the mask sits along these broad shoulders, you're not going to get much movement. You can kind of just consider it a swivel. He's got movement, some nice butterfly at the shoulders, some biceps, got a nice double elbow, hi, and hands. The hands, again, are something that are hindered by the sleeve of the jacket. You're not going to get much, but you can get him in that fear gas spraying pose from the movie, or maybe like a fight, a nice I stand with you kind of pose there. Got some nice crunch in the waist because of the give, of the squishiness of that jacket. So you can hear he's got a nice ratchet joint at the top of the leg. So you're going to get him in the splits, but not much more than that. You don't want him to hurt his little hay bale down there or rip the suit. Nothing at the thighs, but you do have a nice double knee. Got some foot articulation and some toe. If you're into that sort of thing, I don't judge. Again, with the suit and the bell bottoms, though, you're just not going to get much range from these shoes. But that's okay. You can still pose him nicely. That's all that matters. And to wrap up, I will show him alongside some of his Nolanverse brethren here. And sistren, I guess. All in all, I like the figure. I'm glad that McFarlane decided to give us this version, as it is how he appears through most of the trilogy. That said, it's not a perfect figure. There's definitely some corners that were cut, maybe a little too much part reuse. I would have really liked a nice matching texture on the two jackets, a thinner jacket, as well as these weird bell-bottom pants. He looks ready to disco, which, hey, in a place like Gotham, you gotta find your entertainment wherever you can get it. I'll give credit where credit is due. It is a figure that McFarlane did not have to release, but they did. They listened to the fans, and for that, I'm thankful. It's a fine addition to the collection. We're getting pretty close to a full roster from the Nolan films. The only ones that we're missing villain-wise are the Al Ghuls, the Liam Neeson Raz, or Raish, and the Marion Cotillard Talia. I suppose they could also give us the Ken Watanabe Raz decoy as a figure, maybe a chase figure. That would be cool. The decoy and Talia I don't necessarily see happening, but hey, you never know. We got a Morgan Freeman Lucius, and I never thought that would happen either. I love the Nolan movies, so I will keep buying whatever else Todd wants to give us. In the meantime, let me know what you guys thought of this DC Multiverse Red Platinum Batman Begins Scarecrow. Is he going in your collection, or are you skipping him? I will be back with a look at the two Batman figures here soon enough, but in the meantime, be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more creepy collection content. Ooh. I sure do like hearing from you guys. Have a good one, and don't forget, stay spooky.